All right. Well, I am here with Christian Avery from Blizzard. And today we're going to talk about several new skis, mostly in the new Rustler and Sheeva family. But maybe for the people who aren't familiar, can you give us a bit of a background on that collection of skis and where they've been in the past, so then we can get into where they're going in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah. Rustler and Sheeva for us has been, let's say, a kind of come up collection in the last few years here. We've been, let's say, most known for our all mountain series of skis, which on the women's side, Black Pearl 82, 88, 97. Men's side is the Brahma 82, Brahma 88, Bonafide, like names that people have known really, really well. When we launched Rustler Sheeva back in 2016-17, that season there, they were replacing some like big mountain twin tips that were not super well known for us, definitely not selling a ton of those skis. And in that period of time, in the last 7 years, those skis have really come into their own within our line. So Rustler and Sheeva, from like a importance perspective, has become much more mainstream and one of the skis that we're much more known for. So obviously, like now having just updated them for the first time in quite a while here was no small feat, and definitely a lot of work going into those to make sure they stayed as important and kind of centered within the collection as we wanted them to. So the good thing for us was, because those skis have done so well and grown so much, we felt like we were starting from a pretty high kind of basis of performance of those skis and appreciation of the performance and the technologies going on. So a lot of what we're talking about with the new ones here is kind of bringing a lot of those through lines into the new skis here. So the goal with the Rustler Sheeva family is to allow them to really work with that all mountain collection. We kind of look at our all mountain skis as like a 80% on trail, 20% off trail, where a Rustler Sheeva would be much more soft snow oriented, much more kind of everywhere on the mountain, ducking into the trees, into the bumps, kind of everywhere. And so with that is trying to make them as playful as possible, but also still confident and make sure that you can charge on the groomers and go really fast when you need to. So what we tried to do was take some of the torsional softness that is in the tip and tails of the prior versions. That was done with a tapered layer of Titanol in those skis called DRT, super cool acronym, Dynamic Release Technology. Everyone definitely loved that. Brought some of that similar kind of, let's say, design mentality into these skis. Evolved the technology name to be FluxForm, which is at the very least going to be more fun to say. But what you can see behind me, and hopefully showing up on the video here, is kind of the raised layers on these skis. Those are the Titanol stripes in the ski now. We've got two on either side that run the full length of the ski. And the important thing, what we were trying to accomplish, was that same torsional softness that I was describing, but making the skis much more consistent, kind of tip tail. We launched a wood core technology a few years back called TrueBlend that really is a different way to build wood cores, but the point for us is, and what it taught us about these skis, is it was a different way to control the flex profile of the skis. So we've learned quite a bit about making skis balanced all the way fore aft. And so obviously brought TrueBlend into these skis, but also adapted that metal technology to try and represent some of that as well as possible. So that was kind of like the technology or the metal philosophy through line that we brought from the previous versions into these new versions. Then after that, it was kind of looking at every model as its own individual project, understanding that somebody who's skiing say a Rustler 9 or a Sheeva 9 is going to ski on probably some firmer snow than hopefully the person that's got the Rustler 11 or the Sheeva 11 is chasing a super soft snow day, something a little more aspirational. And looking at each one of those projects is kind of its own entity there. So one of the biggest changes from last year, this year, is actually with the rocker profiles with those skis. So brought that technology platform in there, and then with the 9s as well as the 10s specifically, gave them a little bit more running length on snow as well there, kind of extended out the footprint, the contact points on the snow there to make them feel just like they skied maybe a little bit more true to size than the previous versions that skied just a little bit short maybe. And I really wanted to give them some more stability at speed on trail there. So back to that mindset of being able to ski anywhere and everywhere on the mountain. We wanted them to have that groomer performance. At the same time, we wanted to have them have that off-trail performance. So extended that contact point and then steepened the rocker profiles to keep them nice and versatile and playful. So 9 was probably the one that got the most change. It got that kind of like footprint adjustment that I was describing there. It also got wider and went from 92 underfoot as the reference width to 96 underfoot. So pushed it a little bit more into the soft snow kind of freeride space. The 10 also got those rocker profile changes, but stayed 102 as the kind of reference width there. And then 11 is the one that actually, we did a ton of testing with our athletes going back and forth. I mean, there's a laundry list of accolades that we're quite proud of with that Rustler 11. And so kind of put the project into the athlete's hands of like, yes, this needs to be a ski that anyone can get on and have a great day on powder. But at the end of the day, we also want to make sure that we're giving the athletes the tool to do what they need there. So, of course, the Rustler 11 and the Sheeva 11 got all the technology updates from new wood cores, new metal layups that I was describing earlier. But rocker profile-wise, that's actually fairly similar to where it was before. It felt like that ski was functioning pretty well. It just needed that kind of rebalancing of the metal within the ski to make it feel a little more consistent than it did before. Reference widths are still the same there. 112 is kind of the main one. And then with all the skis, the longest lengths get just a little bit wider to have a little bit more platform. So longest lengths of the Rustler 11 go to 114 as well there.
Gotcha. So as a whole, it sounds like the like direction for the series hasn't changed drastically. More refining on the original concept. Kind of, I know it varies by model, but are there any general takeaways that someone should expect if they have experience with the previous Rustlers or Sheevas?
Totally, yeah. I mean, one of the terms we've been using quite a bit is kind of evolution, not revolution. Like we wanted, as I was describing, like bring a lot of those through lines that worked really well in the previous versions, but then clean up some of the things that maybe didn't function quite as well with the previous ones there. So someone who's coming from say a previous Rustler 10 or a Rustler 9, for example, some of the things I think they'll notice is a much more balanced, consistent feeling with that ski versus the prior versions were super playful in the tip and tail and then really strong underfoot. And obviously that was quite appreciated by a lot of people, but in the end also lent those skis to skiing a little bit short, being a little bit maybe nervous, particularly at speed there. So trying to make these skis feel a little bit more consistent, a little bit more balanced tip to tail there, have a little bit more both hard snow integrity as well as speed integrity at speed and control there, while again emphasizing the point, still keeping them super playful and versatile. Definitely was not the goal to reposition our freeride line into say the more aggressive or demanding style things. Like these are playful skis through and through for sure.
Cool. So we just went into pretty in-depth detail on the construction and tech of these skis. Looking more broadly, who's the kind of skier who you're designing them for, who you think would have the best time on the Rustler and Sheeva collection?
Yeah, we really tried to aim these skis at the skier skis, if you will, the people who are really searching after pretty much everything they want to do on the mountain. They want to chase the high fives. They want to just have an incredible day, whether the snow is all time and it's nuking out, or if it's just a little bit more of a firm day there. So, this is really aimed at the skier that wants to do everything on the mountain there. They want to get off trail. They want to play in the trees. They want to hit the bumps at the same time as they want to also be able to rip it on the groomer there. So the customer that's going to have the most fun there is really the one that's looking to do a little bit of everything, ski absolutely bell to bell, have a bunch of high fives with their friends and just kind of share the stoke of skiing. Because, the goal for us was to build these skis such that they're playful, but still have all that performance and keep that window really wide open, that the Leo Slemets of the world can jump off gigantic cliffs at the same time as the, mere mortals can just have an incredible day there. So trying to keep that window really wide open, but for sure aiming at customers that want to have that playful everywhere on the mountain type of experience for sure.
Got it. Rustler and Sheeva, construction-wise, were quite similar. Different graphics, different lengths. But what's the status of that with the latest updated versions?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where, maybe a little bit of history of the brand is helpful too, where, under the tutelage of Leslie Baker Brown, who I'm going to hand it to in a minute here, we launched a women-to-women program in 2015. So kind of at the beginning of that, product was a really important kind of front and center piece of how do we address specifically designing products to meet the needs of women that might be different than men in some of the categories there. Rustler and Sheeva, when they were initially launched, were launched in 16, 17. So we were kind of just at the very beginning of understanding what we could develop and optimize and problem solve to kind of build products specifically for women. So the exciting thing now with brand new Rustlers and Sheevas here and kind of having a lot more experience with the women's group that Leslie's going to speak to in a minute here is the opportunity to really look at those projects as two kind of completely separate ground up investments where, there might be philosophy shared between the two, but in the end, the technologies and the constructions get optimized for the two different target customers. So, I'm going to leave it maybe a little bit vague like that and nod to Leslie Baker Brown here to come talk about specifically the Sheeva skis.
All right, so now we have Leslie Baker Brown from Blizzard Technica to run us through more specifically the Blizzard Technica Women to Women program and how the new Sheeva series kind of plays into that. So maybe could you start with just some background info on the program itself and then how it's been tied into this collection of skis?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as Christian alluded, in 2015, we began the program. And for me, one of the most important things to really nail down was the product. To be able to work with our product managers to get women testing equipment for women, and giving the feedback directly to our product managers, our designers, so that we really could make sure that we're making the right equipment for women. So we gathered I have a group in Europe, I have a focus group in North America. I hold meetings with them. We're on snow. We test our skis. We test competitor skis, and each meeting each year, it differs what we're testing depending on what the new collection is going to be. And we're able to give feedback to them on, this felt like this, and I didn't like this, but this made me feel really confident, or, this one I felt like I couldn't get down the hill. And they're able to take that feedback and that makes sense because we did this and this and this with the construction. I mean, we're not telling them to do what they got to do, but they're able to take our feedback. And it's just, in my mind, it was super important because to get women on the skis and give the feedback because, we're built differently. We, 130-pound female versus a 200-pound guy is going to flex the ski differently. So it's really important that we're giving them that feedback. So we've been doing that since 2015. Each year, getting together, same on the ski boot side of things. And then we work on other initiatives as well, building community, creating inspirational content. Education, to me, is super important to the whole project. So it's really a full 360-degree view of women in skiing and just empowering more women, making them feel better on their equipment, making them understand their equipment better. So, it's been super fun. Nice.
Well, I imagine the kind of that collaboration has been going into the development of the new Sheevas for quite some time. What were kind of some of the main takeaways when you were having those focus groups, having people test different types of skis? Anything that stood out during that part of the process?
It's interesting because, as Christian alluded to who the skis are for and the end goals, they're not that much different. Mm-hmm. But because of how we're built and our weight and strength, we do need something different in how it's actually going to work for us. So the end goals were very similar with the same thing with the 10s needed a little more on snow, the 11s with the flex pattern and things like that. And just really trying to get a nice, smooth flex pattern in the skis was so same goals, just a different way to get to how they work better for women.
Gotcha.
On snow, yeah.
And in terms of the actual construction, how does that play out? What are the main differences?
Yeah, so the TrueBlend wood core that Christian talked about, it's actually the same, except for there's a tiny difference in how they do the high cut, so the thickness of the core. So in the women's, it's going to be a little bit thinner, just to give it a little bit more easier to flex. Yeah. The other thing that actually Christian didn't talk about, he talked about the metal running up the sides, but underfoot there's a plate. And in the Rustlers, it's a Titanol plate. In the Sheevas, it's a fiberglass plate. So again, you're still getting some good dampness and good edge grip underfoot, but it's just a little bit easier to flex.
Gotcha.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
How about the graphics? They, like in the past, sometimes the Rustlers and Sheevas had looked pretty similar. This year, I feel like there's a bit more of a difference.
Yeah, we that's also a super fun process and something that we're super involved in. And we get our designers working on, and they'll give us 20 different designs, and sometimes I'm able to do it with the groups. A lot of times I'm sending out PDFs and saying, hey, what do you think of this? But there was one clear winner when we first started showing all these ones at a focus group we had in 2 Novembers ago, and it was this basic design, and then building out the different colorways of doing it, and I ended up bringing them up to Jackson Hole. We have a whole slew of some of our top athletes that live there, and we got together one evening and laid out all these graphics, and that 11 was a little controversial. Some people all those athletes were like, that's the one. Those colors are the best. Love that. And other people were like, I don't know. But when we thought about who that ski is for, that's like spot on for them. And then you get down to the 9. It's a little bit more conservative, still super fun, beautiful ski. But for that type of skier, it's just, it's just perfect. And then the 10, love the colors in the 10. So it's just super fun. It's a great process. And they keep saying, why can't we do this more with the men's graphics? Getting more people involved. But we got the women, we got a great group. And, it's a global thing. Like I say, I send the same things out to the women in France and Germany and Austria and making sure we're all on the same page. So
awesome.
It's been super fun.
So one thing from the start, Rustler and Sheeva, they were different waist widths depending on the length you were going with, like getting wider with the longer versions and vice versa. It sounds like there's a lot of fine tuning going on with the updated versions, not only in terms of those waist width dimensions, but also in terms of the length offerings. Could you tell us a bit more about how different construction elements vary across the length range?
So with this TrueBlend wood core, usually a wood core, the stringers are just full length of the ski, and then they'll just cut it down by size. In the TrueBlend wood core, they're not like we have the harder ones in the middle, there's more, and then they stop, and then you get fewer of the harder ones as you go out. So each ski has to be, the wood core has to be designed by size. So, if you look at it, that each model, each size is its own model. And so when we do that, we're able to really tailor the flex pattern and how that ski works for that length of ski. So when you get into some of the smaller lengths that are typically what women would buy, like a 162 and down, they've actually taken that wood core and made the sweet spot of the center a little bit more forward.
Okay.
The women's binding mounting point is generally moved forward on a ski for a couple of reasons. One, that our center of gravity tends to be a little further back, but also if you think about it, a typical women's boot size is a 24.5, guys is a 27.5. So already they're accessing the tip of the ski sooner than we are. So that's moved it forward a little bit. So in the women's, the shorter sizes of those skis, that wood core is moved into the sweet spot of the side cut of the ski.
Gotcha. And then between, like we touched on the fact the Sheeva 9, obviously the most firm snow oriented, the opposite for the Sheeva 11, the more deep snow oriented. But are there any notable construction differences between, like from the 9 to the 10 to the 11?
Yep. So the FluxForm, those two pieces of Titanol that run up the side of the ski, actually on the 9s, Rustler and Sheeva, they're actually going to be wider, those metal pieces, because you're going to want more support and stiffness under there. As you get into the 10 and then the 11, those pieces become narrower. So there are those construction differences to give you that different feel on hard snow versus when you're getting off into powder.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So looking outside just the Sheeva collection, Blizzard makes a lot of women-specific skis, including one that happens to be the Black Pearl series is one of the most popular ski series in the world. How do you view the Sheeva versus Black Pearl? Which sort of skiers are better suited to which collection of skis?
Yeah, so the Black Pearl collection, similar to what Christian was talking about with the Bonafide and Brahma, are going to be more on-piste. Mm-hmm. The way they're constructed, you're going to feel more of the edge tip to tail on the snow. You're going to have a better time on, if you're skiing a lot of groomers. They're still super versatile. Like you can get into some of the, softer snow on the Black Pearls. But then the Sheeva is much more playful, much more soft snow bias. Obviously you're going to get up to a 112, so you're going to want to ski that in a lot of snow, soft snow, versus a Black Pearl 82 is going to want to be a little bit more hard snow, a little bit more carvy. You're going to feel the full length of the ski, tip to tail, versus on these Sheevas, they're just much more playful. You just can really move them around and have a good time on them.
Got it. Well, thank you very much for the time and for running us through all the backstory of the Women to Women program and all the details on the new Sheevas. And our reviewers have already started skiing them, really enjoying them so far, and we're looking forward to testing them more this season.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.